Hello and welcome back to the studio, and if you're new, you're very, very welcome. We're so pleased to have you. Thank you for joining us. I've got a really frosty day here in the UK, so my decision not to go out gardening seems to make sense to me, and therefore I thought that I'd perhaps come and spend 20 minutes or so with you. And how about talking through my art bag and what I carry in here when I'm out and about and I go out and I want to paint? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because we always want to take more than we need, perhaps because we're afraid of leaving it behind. But I must admit that on the odd occasion when I've been out like that, I've discovered that the one thing I want, I haven't got. And I'm a greedy painter, I want all of it. Therefore, I have this bag here. Now, it's quite a beauty. It was given to me by a friend, and it's basically a computer bag. It carried a small laptop. Now, these should be available maybe if you go and look in charity shops, ask around your friends. We've got, most of us, if we've got laptops and little things, bags like this, if we don't take it out and about, we don't need them, so they sit in the loft. So this is where this came from, and it's just rather useful. It's about that thick, you can see the width of it, got a good handle on it, and a long strap, so it's worth having a strap that you can wear across your body, because it's much easier than just trying to balance it on a shoulder. And perhaps if you're going for a walk and you want this on the walk, you need to be able to carry it easily. So a good long strap is quite important, I think, and make sure it does up well, because once again, you don't want it flapping about and maybe losing pens and pencils as you walk along the path through the countryside or even through the town. So there we have it. That's my bag. What do I carry in it? Well, obviously, the very first thing I have is my sketchbook. So this is a Pink Pig sketchbook. I like them very much. I use them in the main because they are good, robust paper. We're usually talking about 140 pounds paper. It's watercolour paper, and I know I can rely on it, and it will not cockle when I paint. It's also very important, if you can, to find yourself a book that has the spiral bound edge, because you can then fold it under and you are just dealing with that sitting on your lap. It's important because you don't want to be sitting with an unwieldy piece of paper, do you, or a book. So with like this, and with a hard cover, of course, it means that you've got something to lean on and something to work. You're not landing up with issues with it all wobbling all over your lap. So a good basic book. This comes out at somewhere between 15 and 20 pounds, so it's well worth treating yourself. What's next? Well, this is the other important thing. You need a good set of paints. However you like it, it's up to you. So a small one, large one, doesn't matter. You know, you just have what you need, but make sure that you've got the colours that you need and the colours that you use regularly. Now, it's really rather nifty because we can open it up and the whole thing opens out into this quite amazing, look at that. There you go. You've got all these different palettes that you can use here to mix your paints. The interesting thing is you've got lots and lots of wells. So for me, as I say, I'm a greedy painter. I want all of my bits and pieces so I can carry an awful lot of paint. Now these were empty wells, and they do sell the wells in all different sizes, so you don't have to have little ones like this. And I did not buy them with paint in them. I've squeezed my paint into these, so I know the colours I've got. They're my favourites. I think the only issue I would take with this is it's tricky to hold. You hold it here in the corner where you've got the blank, so that would do for your thumb. But realistically, if I'm quite honest, it would be much better if it had a loop here underneath. You will have seen those on different paint pads where you can put your middle finger through the loop and then it just sits in your hand, and you can tip and move your hand any way that you want to, and it's not going to come free. So that's the one complaint I'd have. The other thing I have done, which is of interest, is I've written on my palettes 1 and 2 because they do fold a specific way. One, of course, is smaller than the other, and I was constantly trying to fold the wrong one in. But apart from that, once we get over those issues, I love it. It just has everything for me. So, you know, how cool is that? Look at that. So 4 really deep wells. You could use this for a really big wash if you wanted to, and just for the lighter colours on here. And of course that on there keeps the paints where they are. Job done. So if you've got room for that depth of palette, I would recommend one of those. Now next on the list, really important, is your water pot. And I haven't gone in and bought really expensive flashy water pots. I've gone for a different idea. This is just an expandable cup that you would use if you were camping, if you were at work and you wanted a drink and you wanted your own mug, and it does that. And they come in all different kinds of colours. It's silicone, so nothing can happen to it. You've got all sorts of things here. You could, if you've got a tab on something, you can hold it tight. That fits beautifully inside the cup holder on a camping chair. And so for me, I can fill that up with water, pop it in the cup holder, and I've got it right next to me where I'm sitting. It comes with a lid, so if you're not able to get rid of the water there and then, you can put the lid on and dispose of it when you get home. So for me, that is a really wonderful classic little bit of kit. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I would be looking at one of those. So for me, that is a really lovely classic little bit of kit. You can fold it up as easily as that, pop the lid on, and we've got this lovely thing. If you don't have room in your bag, you can use the handle and tie it to the outside of your bag. Now if we've got the cup, what do we need to go with that? Well, of course it makes sense, you need water. So have a good water bottle, no glass, plastic, and I keep that filled all of the time so that I'm ready to go. If we're using paint, what's the other thing we need? We need tissues, something. This is an old sheet from the days when God was a boy, and it's just a flannelette sheet, and I've torn it up into bits and pieces that I can use for my art. Why? Because it's cotton and it's terribly absorbent, and that's what you need. Tissues, you're constantly faffing about holding them. I could, with a big wash, I could fill a handful of tissues when I dry my brush, just like that. So that's hopeless for me. And then I've also got the issue, where do I put the tissues? So if you're doing that, you want something really absorbent like this, bit of old tea towel, toweling tea towel, a piece of towel. If you've got an old bathroom towel, tear it up, take the piece. If you're worried about it being wet when you've finished, just have a little Ziploc bag that you can buy from any supermarket, and you can keep it in that until you get it home and give it a good wash. Now, of course, if you're painting, you can't do any of that if you don't have brushes, can you? What are you going to do if you don't have a brush? Well, again, I've tried everything. I've had brushes in long cases, and of course, if you put the bag in the car or it falls over the wrong way and that brush case tips up, you then get to your venue and you find that all your brushes are bent like this because they've all been down the wrong end of the tube. That doesn't work for me. The other thing that I've tried in the past is brush rolls, and again, I pick them up sometimes and they all fall out one end, so that's frustrating, and then you're scrabbling about in the grass. I can't be bothered with any of that at all. I just can't be doing with it. So what's the easiest, quickest solution? Let me show you. One of these. So what is this, you ask? This is a really rather fabulous little leatherette pouch. It's not the real thing, can't afford that, but it's a nice little plastic leatherette pouch. Material inside, press stud, and then we've got a zip down the side. And inside we have 4 really rather lovely travelling brushes. They're not sable. For outside, I'm just happy to use a nylon brush. Big, good, springy, bouncy brush. Put them together like so, and you have this beautiful bit of kit to use. 4 different sizes. This is the sort of 3rd along the row, but look at this for a lovely fine brush. Look at that. Lovely fine little brush. So we have all of those, and I would say to you, don't ever put those away without wetting them first, so that they're good and tight and you're not going to catch any of the hairs as you go back into this. So for now, I'm not going to put those away because I want to wet them and make sure that I'm not going to mess them up when I put them back in the covers. But a super little travel kit. Something that would be nice, if you haven't got one, to ask somebody for a birthday present or a Christmas present. So now that we've been through the things that you really, really need, I mean, if you want to, and you're brave enough, you could leave it just at that. So that's fine. But I like the added extras and the bits and pieces. I've got a little bag of salt, just a little Ziploc bag of salt, so that if I want that for effects on foreground, or if I'm painting trees and I want to do a quick, easy sort of effect for texture, and this is just the thing to use. So a little bag of salt. What else have I got? What else have I got in here? I do have masking fluid in a Seal Easy bag, just in case. Can you imagine if it, oh no, don't go there. Don't even think about it. And of course, to work with that, I need a little bar of soap, because the soap protects the brush when you use the masking fluid. So I have that in here too, just in case. Trees are tricky. So if you can just mask them out and then paint all your background, it speeds you up with your work. Now, what else? If you don't want to take the brushes and you really want to hone it all down, how about one of these? This is simply a water brush. I keep it filled, so the water is here in this tank, and it's easy enough to undo it and just put the whole thing in the water and pump it, squeeze it so that it sucks the water in. Tighten that up like that. They come in all different thicknesses of brush. I like this size because this size for me is really rather useful. I've got a lovely fine tip there. Let me bring you in. So I've got a beautiful fine tip that I can use, but it's good enough with my sketchbook that I can use it for washes if I want to. And of course, with something like this, no matter where you are, you can find somewhere to fill the water. You could either nip down to the river that you're painting and fill it up with river water. You can, if you've got a bottle of water that you're drinking, you can use that. You can nip into public loos anywhere and just put that under the tap. So that usually you can find water. And what do you do for cleaning it? It's simple. If you paint your colour and the brush is dirty, this is another reason for the cloth. I call it wiping its nose, but I clean it on my cloth. So a water brush is a really useful thing to have, just, so potentially you could just take out your paints, you could take out your pad and this and a cloth and the job's done. Now if you like to sketch and not, you know, before you start to paint, or maybe painting's not your thing and you just want to sketch, you can always just have these 3 pieces of equipment and that's all you need along with your book. Let me show you. A rubber, simply, a pencil sharpener, and again I take this one with the lid so that it doesn't matter where I am, I don't have to worry at all about the shavings. You know, if you go in for a cup of coffee in a cafe, you're sitting in the window looking out at the sea or looking out at the countryside, whatever, painting the people, drawing the people, you don't want to be leaving pencil shavings around if you use a pencil. The other thing you could do, and I like this very, very much, I have a 2B propelling pencil. I use a 2B lead, I buy those instead of HB, and I just like a propelling pencil. It's always there, it's always sharp, and I don't need to worry about dropping it, breaking it. It's absolutely tip-top for me. You know, I can use this to put it on my clothing if I'm out sketching and I want to put it down quickly so that it doesn't roll away. I can just clip it. Perfect. It's perfect. This is all I need when I sit and draw. Now it has to be said, I do like to use a little bit of a mixture. I won't say exactly that it's mixed media, but I do like to use pens and pencils and work on top of things sometimes, because you've got that quick sketchy painting and it all looks a bit bitty, and I like to go in on top and use either pencils or go in and use pens and pull it all together. So what do I use? Well, here's my selection with pens. I mean, I said to you I'm a greedy painter. Here we go, look. Say no more, really. I have all sorts here and I like to use all sorts. I have a white pen, just a white pen that I can come in, and if I want highlights I can pop it in with this. It's a brush pen, so it gives me the option of putting swathes of white through, putting white on top of something, or just putting highlights in. So that's rather good, I like that. And then I've got a ballpoint pen, because believe it or not, these can be really, really useful to come in on top of your work. It doesn't bleed, it's not going to run, you can go in on top, it doesn't tend to clutter up with the paint that you're using. Sometimes the granules of paint, that although they've dried on your work, when you start to draw, it can mess up the nibs on a pen. So this one's really rather good, and I just like to use that. So it's just a standard rollerball pen. That's all you need, just in black. Now, talking about black pens, I also have this pen here, which is really rather fun. This one is also a rollerball pen, so no difference really. The only difference is on the end we have a rubber, and I can actually rub it out. So if you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world. But this is really rather nifty, because when you use it you could potentially go in and draw your picture first, and you could do it with the ink, so you could put your house in and you could put some fencing, tree, so you could go in and you could do your drawing. And then this particular pen, if you give it a little while, sit and enjoy the scenery, just give it a little minute, and then you'll find that you can paint over the top with your watercolour, and this doesn't run. It's not a runner, so that's a good thing to know, isn't it? Works well. Like these, it means that you can also use it for writing, and if you get your writing wrong, every now and again you spell the name of a place wrong, don't you? Oh my goodness, that's a nightmare. And you can come in and you can just rub it out. have another go. Good for creative accounting, but I didn't say that. So that one's really handy. And then talking about pens, this one's rather good. This is an alcohol-based permanent pen. And so that means that, again, I can come in and I can do my drawing. This has got a slightly thicker line to it, but I can draw with this one. It's a fibre pen, and then again I can go in on top and I can paint on top. Why would you be worried about that, you say? Well, sometimes you'll you'll paint a picture, go in, tighten it up like this, and then discover that maybe, oh, I'd really rather wish that that was a bit darker, put some more paint on it. This isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to run. Now, conversely, a pen like this one, this does run with water. So with this, I can come in and I can sketch and I can draw. And then if I have water, let's, for instance, take the water pen, I can come in and I can move it. So you can get some lovely work that's grey with that one. You know, you think about that, you can draw your picture first and then you can move it. So that's one good tight sharp nib that you can see, that you can work with. Got two of those. Maybe I need to put that one somewhere else. And then we have something like this pen, which is beautiful. This one will also move with water. This is a felt pen, and again it has a wider nib, but it gives you a good line. Gives you a good line. Bigger, broader stroke, which means that you can paint a wider area with it. So again, if I come in and I use the water on that one, it will move, but not amazingly. Look at that. So again, you've got the choice of this kind of grey idea going on. If you want something to really move, this one's amazing. This is a brush pen. And if I pick up that, it's absolutely lush. So I could wet an area first. This is why I've got this little spray bottle. I could damp an area first, and then I could go in with this and get some lovely effects with that. So you see, something like that can be useful too. Good for foregrounds, rocks, bits of moss, what have you. Now, this is just yet another pen. It's just a permanent pen, and this one's grey. So here I have a grey, which is very nice for shading. If I were to do this, I could come in and I could shade my house. So that gives you ideas for some really nice, different ways of drawing. And then finally, this is a food pen, F-U-D-E, Japanese idea, and it looks as though someone has taken the nib and banged it on the table because it's bent upwards. Can you see how the nib is bent upwards? Very strange shape. So if we use a pen like this and we use it flat, it will give us deep coverage like this, deep ink. And as you work it onto the side of the pen, you get a finer line. And you can even use it on the back for very fine scratchings and marks like this. So it's quite exciting to use because for greenery, you can imagine, it gives you all this texture and shape and the design of the foliage. And then of course, if you add water, I've used Quink, Parker ink, Quink, and for fountain pens, and when you put water with it, it does some quite exciting things because the ink bleeds out into browns and sometimes blues. So can you imagine that for foliage and for distant mountains, just you let your imagination run riot with all these different things. That's what they're designed for us to love and use. So that is my art bag. That's what I take with me as a basic. There's still room in there, so if I'm on holiday, I can still take a tin of pencils, coloured pencils maybe even watercolour pencils, or a tin of pastels. Have a little bit spare so that when you go away for a long time and you want, quantity, you still have room. And of course, you might want some room for a bag of sandwiches. Just bear that in mind. So that is my art bag, and I'm very glad to have shared it with you. I hope it made sense and I hope it was interesting. I have to say to you, if you can think of something that you take and I haven't thought of, I'd love to know, please. So if you'd care to put that in the comments below, I'd be most grateful. But for now, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on another day. All right, bye for now. Bye.